If you're ready to take a fascinating but painful look at America's history of institutional racism, you should definitely check out Who We Are: Chronicle of Racism in America, coming to theaters in February. Hey everyone, this is David Stark from Watcher Pass, and today I'm going to talk about Who We Are: Chronicle of Racism in America, which is coming to theaters in February. It's coming to the DC area on February 4th, 2022. It's coming to the Baltimore area on February 11th, 2022. I imagine it'll be opening all over, but it will definitely be out in February. It is a fascinating look at kind of America's history and how that has intertwined with racism in America and the effect that has had on all of us, but particularly Black Americans and the institutional racism that has affected them and by extension, everyone in America. So my hot take is I think you should definitely watch it. I think it's a fascinating look. It draws on a lot of historical lessons. It draws on some parts of history that I don't think are easily taught or remembered. And it also is just a fascinating personal look at America and history through this lens, which I think is useful. It's good to get perspective. It's good to kind of get some historical knowledge, and it's also just a well-made documentary. It's an interesting talk, and I think overall you should definitely watch it. So I'm just going to talk to you really quickly about some of the things I liked about it. I can't really do justice to this film because you really have to see it and see the stories that are told to really kind of get an idea of what what this movie is about. But I'll just briefly touch on some of the things I liked about it. So the first thing I really liked about this movie is just the frank conversation. I mean, this movie, it doesn't really sugarcoat anything. It looks at how racism and race has kind of been deeply ingrained in American history and how that has kind of bubbled up through time into what we know today and some of the effects that has had on a society today and people in that society. And it really does go into some frank discussions of things that have happened, like Black people that had been killed simply because they were successful, how people's race has affected how people perceive them, and even just kind of how institutional bias has seeped into a lot of aspects of America. It doesn't do this with like gotcha moments. It does it with really interesting lessons and really interesting perspectives. It's all based on this talk that the kind of writer and main person in the film, Jeffrey Robinson, has done throughout the country as he's been trying to kind of speak more about the historical perspective of racism, and it uses that as an anchor to then go and tell other stories that relate to the topics that he is talking about. The movie is about an hour 40 minutes. It is a very interesting hour 40 minutes. I think if you watch it, you will kind of be enthralled the entire time. The second thing I love, and I already kind of talked about this, is the historical perspective. I mean, I think this movie looks into how race is kind of intertwined with a lot of aspects of American history, from the Constitution to the Star-Spangled Banner to some of the founding fathers, things that I think people might have heard, but this movie does a good job of putting them all together into one kind of cohesive package that you can watch and just get some more insights into how race has affected America from the start and how that has then kind of bubbled up through time. And this historical perspective is not just like way in the past founding fathers. There are stories about kind of more modern day America and events that have happened fairly recently that do show just kind of the effect that racism has had on people in America, people today, people now. And Jeff Robinson, who did the talk, also gets into some personal stories that he's had growing up in America not that long ago, things that have happened to him that show just kind of what they had to do to overcome some of this institutional racism, from buying a house to trying to play sports and not being able to play in a certain place. Like, there's all these different instances that happen that I think weave together this message of just how prevalent race in America is. And the last thing I really loved about this movie is just the respect. I think this is a tough topic to discuss. It's an emotional topic, and there is emotion in this film, but I think through it all, Jeff Robinson maintains a measured, kind of thoughtful, professorial tone throughout. I mean, part of it is he's giving a talk, so it's going to be kind of more professorial, but you can tell that there's moments where there is very real emotion in his voice, and he keeps it in. He kind of tries to make this into more of a teaching film. And there are also instances in the film where he has very frank conversations with people that have very different viewpoints. And some of those viewpoints are frankly ridiculous, but he maintains a respectful tone throughout. Like, he's not going to change that viewpoint, but he doesn't yell. He doesn't get angry. He just, thanks the person for their view and walks away, which I imagine was very tough to do, but I also think But this all kind of fits with the overall theme of this movie, which is really to talk about race in America and to teach some of the underlying aspects of that. So I really like that. I really loved this movie overall. It's coming to theaters in February. You can definitely check it out. I guess if there is a criticism, although it's not really a criticism, is that there's no answer at the end of this, but then that is racism in America. There's no easy answer to anything. The film kind of ends with a kind of call to action, a kind of hope that people will keep kind of working and making progress to combat racism in America. You should definitely check it out. The film is in theaters February 2022. And also, after you've seen the film, there is a project, a kind of foundation that has started after this film. This film is the first thing that the Who We Are project has put out. And the project will then kind of work on other ways to build awareness of racism and kind of also change the laws and society to try to help counteract that. So definitely check it out. It's in theaters. And thank you so much for watching. If you like this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.